Okay, let's be serious now. Okay, I'll say, hold on, let me get both cameras going. Amy, speed.
Slate it.
Well.
Wow.
And action.
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, just like the ones I used to know.
Scott, I just wanted to tell you that I'm euphoric and happy.
Shortly after leaving me that message, Vic Chestnutt was in a coma, and I was on my way to Athens, Georgia. I knew he'd come out of it, and I wanted to be there to film it. He had battled with depression long before his accident, and this was just part of that cycle. As I entered the hospital, I remembered it was Christmas. Would it freak out the ICU staff to film this? I knew what Vic would tell me to do.
Y'all motherfuckers on?
Recently, we had been working on a film to document every song he had written. We'd covered close to 200, but still hadn't reached the halfway point.
Stupid Preoccupations is a code, a song written in code. Mr. Riley, now this is a song. Steve Willoughby was a kind of mythological character in Independence Day, but it was a pop song. Scott did a video for it. I wasn't sure exactly what I was writing.
Currently, that film is over 6 hours long. This is not that film. Though a lot of that footage is used, no amount of film could explain Vic better than his music. That was a good take, right?
I, for some reason, didn't like it, Scott.
Are you sticking your tongue out at me? If it moves you, like it moved me, his humor and raw honesty will make other music seem flat in comparison. He often told me there wasn't a place for him in the music industry, but I disagree. So when the film is over, and if you can find them, go buy the albums. Or as Vic would say,
What does that song mean? Buy the record, find out, motherfucker, find out. May all your Christmases be white. Weeping, sad and lonely, when this cruel thing is over, hopes and fears, how vain. When this cruel thing is over.
Please give a very warm welcome to Vic Chestnutt.
I covet American success of others. Like, I wish I was more successful here.
Vic did make it. Did he get to the Grammys? Did he have a gold record? No.
I don't know how the public would have taken to Vic at a Grammy Awards, to be honest.
Maybe America's not ready for a superstar in a wheelchair.
Well, I must have been one of history's stupidest men. Everything was perfect in my head until the lid started hitting me.
He's an acquired taste. You have to make a commitment to his music.
It's my songs, I write songs for my betters. I mean, I write songs that are intentionally over the head of people.
Yeah, it was dense and complex, and sometimes I think maybe you needed Cliff's notes, just to understand where he was going with this stuff.
Part of his mission was to throw a wrench in the works.
Get up hindsight, I can see your ass wasn't right. Maybe I might take dull, but you're pathological.
Dark, black, bleak humor was one of the things that he specialized in.
And a lot of people looking at you and their careers depend on you being successful.
Do I think he could have handled it? Probably not.
I'm not surprised that his music didn't automatically reach a wide audience because he didn't compromise it at all.
Well, you know, he wanted to get to the Grammys by his own route, maybe. You know, he wanted to get there doing what he did his way, and that would have been a huge coup, you know, because, hey, motherfucker, I got a Grammy, and, you know, you never heard of me.
Big Chestnutt and Lamb Chop, everybody. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. Stick around.
Well, I'm sorry for my lack of communication. But as I'm staring out this fifth floor window, it seems like the least amount of...
Yeah, I grew up in Zebulon, and it's not another planet. People go, where are you from? I say, Zebulon. They go, it sounds like another planet. I was adopted myself. I often touch on that subject. It's kind of fascinating to me that, you know, raised by strangers kind of aspect. When I was born in 1964, you know, unwed mothers is a kind of a nasty, you know, that was very frowned upon.
And I ain't got time for the niceties. Alright, I was never fond of the niceties. I will see you around.
The first song that you wrote was called God. You wrote it when you were about 5.
Right.
I'm not going to ask about the song. I'm going to ask. I got to ask about what gave you the idea at 5 years old that you could write a song.
Well, see, that's the thing. See, I'm a very lucky person in that my granddaddy wrote songs and my grandma wrote lyrics.
I know Vic's talked to you before. You've heard him talk about like our grandfather. They would take us with them to like clubs and stuff, or my grandfather and my grandmother would play.
My mama told me that from the first time when I was a little baby, if he opened that guitar, started playing it, I would just crawl over there and sit there, watch him all night, you know. From an early age, I knew that people sat around and made up songs. It wasn't some kind of weird hocus pocus to it.
This heartwarming gesture. As you make your advances so clumsily, I'll save us both the hassle and leave.
No, let's mark that as 2. Amy, do you have audio to Danny Carlisle?
Danny Carlisle.
He wanted a tree fort more than anything.
When I was in 6th grade, everybody hated me.
Wanted to build and defend one on his own.
Everybody picked on me. I was fat, but this one retarded kid loved me, and he was hanging around me all the time. Right? He probably wasn't really retarded. We all just called him retarded. He was probably a genius who didn't care about the silly things that we all are obsessed with. So he's this kid who's just, you know, riding his bike and doing all this stuff, having BB gun fights, you know.
A 5-speed Schwinn for Christmas.
But he doesn't care about fucking or the Contras, you know. He just wants to dream and a blissful little kid. But he loved me, and he was always hanging around me all the time. And at first, you know, it was good. I was glad to have my little buddy, you know. But then he started like clinging on to me, and then like one day somebody said, "Hey, who's your boyfriend?" Like that, you know, said that about him, and I was like, "He's not my boyfriend," you know. And so I knew then I had to ditch the dude. Everybody thinks we're lovers now. I didn't even know what lovers was in the 6th grade, but this had to end. He's not my damn boyfriend. And so I told him to leave me alone. You know, leave me alone and quit hanging around me. And he was like, oh, but you're, you know, all right, that's it. You know, you meet me outside and we're going to fight. Yes, and so everybody was like, yeah, he's going to fight the retarded kid, yeah, fat kid and retarded kid, fight, you know, and so they all gathered around and they were all like going, fight, fight, fight. So then I'd like punch the retarded kid in the face, you know, and like bloodied his nose. And as soon as I hit him, everybody was like, oh, you hit the retarded kid. And everybody who would never give him the time of day were like hugging on him. Oh, poor kid. You know, all the hot chicks were like hugging on him and stuff. And so suddenly I was the evil ogre. I hit the retarded kid. And that was a very traumatic experience for me because everybody hated me after that, for real. Danny Carlisle, he don't give a single shit about the Contras. Danny Carlisle, he's barely grown and he's used up most of his options. And still he would rather dream, dream, dream. Still he would rather dream than fuck. But I ended up, my asshole behavior ended up, you know, like this guy was king of the fucking class for the rest of the year. Like I was saying, it was a pretty powerful event in my childhood. And advertisements.
High school was much better. He lost a lot of weight. He was in the drama club. And I think most importantly, he met Todd McBride, someone that really shared his passion for music.
I remember the first memory I have of Vic, I was working at a Turtles record store in Griffin, Georgia. Keep seeing this character walking in. And one night I noticed he's pulling out a copy of Thriller, Michael Jackson's Thriller. He keeps picking it up and kissing it. And kissing it. And I'm like, this guy's hilarious.
You know, Todd pulls out his notebook and he sings some songs and I was blown away. I was like, oh my God, there are people that I know who write songs, because I was like the only guy in Pike County writing songs. And I was like, okay, we're starting a band, damn it.
The Screaming Ed.
The Screaming Ed. That was the beginning of my deal in rock and roll right there. But my lyrics sucked at the time, man. I didn't know what, I wasn't sure what lyrics were supposed to do, you know, even though I listened to Bob Dylan and Leonard Cohen, you know, and these kind of things, but I just wasn't sure what I had to offer. I was drunk as a coot, driving around and, you know, where I grew up in Middle Georgia, and I drove into a ditch, flipped the car over, and broke my neck. Your personal pariah is in a old cow. The mirror flakes away and take a long nap. I didn't remember anything of that night. I was completely drunker than I needed to be. I didn't remember anything from maybe 4 in the afternoon, and it was 2 in the morning when I crashed.
My granny came and woke me up. She was like, we gotta go to the hospital. Vic's been in an accident, and he was in the emergency room. He was conscious, but he couldn't speak, obviously. And his eyes were like super wide, and you could tell he was totally conscious and very terrified. I was gonna die for almost 2 months. You know, every day I was close to the edge of death. And I did die like 3 times during that. For my heart stopped, my lungs stopped.
They thought I was going to be a vegetable, complete brain damage because I was dead for 10 minutes.
Watching the threads disintegrate, crumbling like the lone art you made.
Part of the reason that I was like I crashed in the first place is because I was drunk all the time, and my friends all thought I committed suicide. That's what they all thought.
I don't actually know if that was a purposeful attempt, but sometimes I got the feeling that it was.
I didn't talk to people in Pike County after I broke my neck. I was embarrassed. What a dumbass thing to do. What a dumbass. I was president of the student council, and then, a few months later I break my neck in a drunk driving car wreck. What a moron.
Like the lone art that you made.
Forced me to be who I am in a funny way.
I think he always had it in him to become a great songwriter. I think that but really it just focused his energy. After the accident, it focused his energy because there were things that he just wasn't going to be doing.
You get limitations, you tend to work within those limitations, and sometimes those limitations force you to do good things.
What am I going to do?
I remember him saying, it just really just made it simple in some ways. It cut down my options. I wasn't going to be working at the mills in Griffin.
And this kind of a forced period of isolation in my own self. I couldn't play, I could only listen. Yeah. These are the things that changed my lyrics.
Free of hope, free of a past. Thank you God and nothing else.
And I didn't read until after I broke my neck, And then when I read, I realized, oh, this is what words do. Oh, they're powerful. They're not just there to tickle you.
And it's completely changed the way now he thinks about making music. The kicker is they don't think he'll ever have enough mobility in his hands to play the guitar again.
No, they don't move a damn bit. Look, they're paralyzed. My fingers are definitely affected greatly by my injury. Greatly, in fact. My fingers don't move too good at all.
Oh, it was genius. He super glued a pick to a glove.
Put that glove on and go at it. I think we should patent that glove and start selling it to some of these shredders out there. The big Chestnutt anti-shred glove.
This hand is paralyzed, and this hand is almost all paralyzed, so it's hard for me to play guitar, so I have to make the kind of music I do. When I could start playing the guitar again after about a year, I realized that all I could play were these kind of, G, F, C, those kind of chords, and so it was going to be, that's what I was going to do.
I'm free.
Once he had that movement to strum basic chords, he was off to the races. The first salvo had been fired, and that was Isadora Duncan.
Isadora Duncan.
Isadora Duncan.
Isadora Duncan.
Isadora Duncan.
I was fascinated by Isadora Duncan.
I just thought Isadora Duncan was some girl who lived in Athens.
He told me, he said, write a song called, with this line in it.
I dreamed last night I was dancing with Isadora Duncan. That's all I had.
I don't know why he said that, but he just said that. Why did you do that?
Because I actually had the dream.
Well, I dreamed I was dancing with Isadora Duncan.
And that was the beginning, though, to me, you know, that, on the way up here I realized, oh, this is what I do. I realized that you could sing anything, and words that aren't often sung are amazing to sing. It's shocking sometimes when you don't just, instead of just singing Moon and June and Spoon, you can sing New Directions Paper Book.
She closed her New Directions paper book and screamed, there is no shelter in the arts.
I think before Isadora Duncan, all my songs were kind of groping for subject matter.
I can't believe you own this attitude.
Isadora Duncan has a lot of mystery. It's also intellectual improvising on historical subjects combined with a little bit of borrowing from my own life too. It references her untimely death. Her scarf got caught in a wheel and it choked her to death. That's very symbolic, you know, where your fashion is your downfall. It's a very powerful symbol.
Though I didn't want it to sound like that, her mind was occupied.
I first met Vic when he walked into the record store where I was working, but I really got to know Vic a few days after that when he was downtown protesting the existence of God. And a friend of mine from high school was very upset by this and really wanted to kick his ass.
And I realized that human existence, it wasn't as dismal in my world as it was in Kierkegaard's Christian world. Atheism is a glorious worldview.
And I don't know, how much it was a problem before he started talking about it in public.
Oh, I remember that.
Time.
At the church, the Unitarian Church.
Unitarian Church.
Yeah.
The only time I ever played my songs for my parents. One time.
When he got to Speed Racer, he stopped and said that he wanted to apologize to his parents. He went ahead and got through with the song and said, "Granny, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Granny."
You know, he's talking to his granny about being an atheist, you know, and I'm sorry, Granny, but, you know, and I mean, you know, I start crying thinking about it. I mean, that's some intense, heavy stuff.
This is my coming out party as a solo artist, my new batch of songs, you know. The first song I did was Speed Racer. First song I did. I started in that verse. When I hit the chorus, I'm an atheist, my parents started blubbering, crying.
I'm not a victim. Oh, I am an atheist. I am an atheist.
Everybody in the audience could hear them. I could hear them on stage. They were crying, sobbing out loud. They sobbed the whole fucking time.
They probably think he was going to go to hell for it.
I talked to him after. We went to Dunkin' Donuts right after. And all I remember is my granny leaned over to me and she said, "Vic, there's things that everybody does it, but you don't have to sing about it."
I'm not a victim. I'm not a victim.
But did that upset you that she never listened to your music?
I didn't, you know, it wasn't for her. It would have break her heart. Hearing those songs would break her heart. She always told me, even before, right on her deathbed, she would say things like, "You've got charisma. Someday you're going to be a great preacher." And I'm like, "Mom, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God. You know, I've got faith. You know, Mom, this is my faith. You know, this is heavy duty stuff."
I don't think I even knew that was an option for people, you know, until Vic started talking about it to me, and I was like, you gotta believe in something, you know.
But I had to do that. I had to play my song. It was like coming out as a gay man, you know, has to come out. I had to come out as an atheist to my parents, you know, and, you know, it broke their hearts and they were never happy again, ever.
I am an atheist. I am an atheist.
Once he's confronted them with being an atheist, he is sent to a faith healer.
They were trying to bring in healers and things.
Devil, back off. Back off, devil!
I ended up for a month living with this faith healer type person in Tupelo, Mississippi. My parents firmly believed that this guy was a faith healer, could heal me. I went through with it just because I love my parents, but you know, the Holy Spirit fixing my spinal cord injury, I had zero faith in that.
And when that doesn't work and he's back living at their house, he realized pretty quickly that he wanted to be independent and get out of town.
We decided we were going to be an Athens band.
Yeah. What else was I going to do? So, you know, move to Athens and live the life of a bohemian.
It's like only a few months after Isadora Duncan was written. And so I came to town with newfound literature in my blood, so I was on fire. Man, Athens is a different world.
Oh yeah, it was a
Son
different
of
world
a
back
bitch.
then.
That was the whole thing.
It felt like an oasis in that part of Georgia.
It's a rich place. The air is heavier there, and you get characters like Vic out of there, you know?
It was wild. Came to Athens. It was in the bohemian world of Athens in the 80s.
And there weren't a whole bunch of children downtown then. It was all freaks like us.
Yeah,
you know,
we had the run of the
maybe
place.
4 bars downtown.
We had the run of downtown.
No cops downtown. No, you know.
We went out every night.
I knew that Athens was kind of a bohemian enclave, so I knew that, but I didn't expect Vic.
12 o'clock when the bars were closed, everybody used to come at Java, and Vic Chestnutt used to hang out there. We all used to hang out there till about 6 in the morning till the sunrise.
We sat on the couch a-playing, touched the tongue and bumped the table. I was scorned after little.
Actually, my real career started when singer-songwriter type career started when I was in my early 20s in Athens, and somebody heard me play at a party and made me go sing at a club the next day. And people said, "Oh, that was great." And after that, you know, it was kind of no looking back. They created a monster.
Well, Michael Stipe heard a recording of you, which became your album Little, that he produced, right?
Right.
It was a recording you didn't necessarily want to be released because it was so informal and so raw.
We put down 21 songs in a day and mixed them with overdubs. He sat down with his guitar and just sang, and we rolled tape and didn't stop for 10 hours, and that was that.
Avoid certain societal hassles, and I know what they say.
I feel like a little person in this world, and I write little songs, not like Michael Jackson songs that are huge, and think my little thoughts, and it's really fun to say. Little. You know, little is really fun to sing, you know, la 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 la, you know, it's such sing-songy word, you know, little. Oops, see, it makes you spray. Little. Yeah. See, little. Little, it's still, you know, this kind of walk the fine line between singing and speaking.
Well, Hemingway, you did your fat little self-justice. So here's to you. You articulately dead fisherman.
I didn't want it to be pretty. I didn't want to sound like James Taylor singing these beautiful, sweet little songs, you know. That's not what I wanted to do with my guitar and singing. But I didn't want to be Bob Dylan with a harmonica either, you know, because I hated Bob Dylan. I mean, I loved him, but I also hated him. Most of his songs are just bullshit, you know what I mean? He is just pure masturbatory, you know, they don't mean anything.
Would you say I am too wordy? And then would you laugh? There's so many ghosts out there on
And he's pretty much bumming around Athens, pissing people off.
Could go nowhere in Athens without being confronted with ghosts of my stupidity. Or don't shit where you eat, right? You know that line, right? Don't shit where you eat. Well, I had shit everywhere that I eat. So it's time to get the fuck out of Dodge.
I've done shit everywhere that there is to eat. I guess it's time for me to get the fuck out of Dodge.
And just being so wasted, you know, that my parents won't even be able to recognize me, you know, because I'm just so wasted, you know. So it's time for me to get the fuck out of here, you know. You know, maybe reference to maybe I should kill myself, you know, piss or get off the pot, or you know, just get to California, man. California was blowing my mind.
Did you leave Athens or Pike County?
All I had done was I left Athens, I drove to LA.
Bow that head, strap it down. You get religion in bad boy town. Rough house, as you like it. You'll get religion when you're inside it. Rough house.
It just blew my mind, and I was so inspired. I mean, I'm living in Venice Beach, California, you know. California was blowing my mind. Most of my time in LA was spent going to sleazy clubs down by Venice Beach, getting real drunk, real drunk.
Rough house, as you like it. You'll get religion when.
And during this, he's writing, you know, up to 20 songs a week and not remembering them.
I woke up, passed out on the floor, you know, I'd been drunk, right? And I got up and I was looking around, and on my kitchen table was written the words to Lucinda Williams. I don't remember writing them or anything like that, but they were all written out on this notebook. And I thought, wow, this is pretty great. And so I just sat down with my guitar and put it to music.
Imports and altercations, my faculties on a shoestring vacation. I settled down on a hurt as big as Robert Mitchum and listened to Lucinda Williams.
I loved it. It was immediately one of my favorite things. It was a good bridge from my old kind of melodic structure into my new.
Not before me, except after me. I'm dousing my vitals at breakneck speed.
I was very jazzed, and so it was a very creative time in my life.
He started writing a lot of songs, and I think that built his confidence. And then eventually he called Tina, who he'd been dating not very long.
She said she was going out to LA too, and our mutual friend and Robbie and I looked at each other and were like, why is Tina going out to hang out with Vic? I didn't even know she knew him, and when they came back they were married.
I was a little shocked when they got married. That was quick, you know, it was a quick romance.
Yes, and it's true, I did get married.
I wasn't buying the story, you know, it's like, oh, you know, the long drive back from LA, we talked, and then, you know, next thing you knew, we were married.
Hey, look, there's my ring.
There's the ring. My mother gave her one.
I think they just sort of had this whirlwind romance.
And oh, the stories were offline. Everything changed also when I got married to Tina. It was just funny that when we got married, everybody in Athens was, you know, kind of shocked. Of course, you know, nobody expected me to get married. And I'm a disgusting, you know, vagrant.
Nobody believed it, so they like got the the marriage certificate and like printed it.
I don't know who actually performed the ceremony. I don't know if truck drivers are allowed to like perform wedding ceremonies when they're in their trucks like sea captains are.
Girl, she is waking up against the famous vagrant.
Champagne left over from the reception. We got married in a truck stop outside of Dallas.
It's called Rip Griffin's world's largest truck stop.
She made me do it. She had all the drugs in the world, so I had to marry her. See, we had a wedding. Her sister threw a wedding reception for us, me and her sister.
The biggest change I ever saw in him was when he and Tina got together. Maybe I just never seen him in love before, but he was like silly, giddy, in love.
In summer, sweetie, I stayed cohort, while the rest of the town was baking. Traffic is light and appetites are hearty and tongues are soggy.
I was opening for Bob Mould a lot of my first career.
I had heard little, and it seemed like a good fit.
Having to open for his crowd and try to get over to his crowd, was one of the greatest experiences I ever had to go through as a performer.
Scenic vista, like a long-awaited chemical buzz, like a far-off twister.
My fans loved Vic. I mean, they really took to him.
He was a big influence on me.
Let's get down to business, shall we?
It taught me, you are in front of an audience, you moron.
Vic could be a real charmer, but there were also those days where he could be his own worst enemy.
How could I not have a problem with you?
On stage, he would just sort of fall off the edge and, go into a real dark space.
People want to come see the show, and he put on a show that nobody would want to see.
I feel like that night he was pretty angry. That show, I remember him, you were there, right? I remember him spitting. Like he cleared his throat and was like, I'm not gonna sing this with my throat. And he just spit, and I was like, wow. I really liked that about him. He was not prone to artifice.
Was, one of those, let's torture the audience.
It would be inevitable that I would invite somebody out to the 40 watt and say, those guys really good, you gotta come see them, and then Vic would sit up there and sing, they call me Mr. Cholesterol, fuck 'em all, and he would do that over and over, and that was pretty much the show.
There were some good ones, Mr. Cholesterol, Fuck a Little Duck, Fun Party, just Fun Party, over and over.
And of course, I think if you connect with that kind of mentality like we did, we loved it. We'd be roaring with laughter, but you're sabotaging your career right there,
Fun party, fun party, fun party, 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 fun party, fun party.
Not even how bad it can be, but just how uncomfortable it can be for everybody.
He can be mean. Yeah, he could be mean.
I think he wrote a song about everybody he knew.
Okay. So it's true. I might as well admit it. I've never admitted it.
If you knew him, or if he even knew of you, somehow you were going to turn up in one of his songs eventually.
Beverly always says, you wrote that song about me. I was like, no, I fucking didn't. Okay, it's about Beverly and Andrew.
Something would happen, and then he would write the song, and then he would go to the 40 Watt Club and sing it. It was kind of like reading the newspaper. It's like the town crier. You go and see Vic, and you find out what everybody's up to.
Phil the fiddler.
My roommate came and she said,
Who do you have in there with you? She didn't take acid, she was a psychotic personality.
People literally would leave the 40 Watt Club, stomp out because they're pissed off because Vic's singing about their personal life on the stage.
Jack the Lad. Told me the town.
He would go out on stage and deliberately play a song just to piss people off.
Partly because I loved him so much and I wanted other people to love him. If I brought people to a Vic Chesnutt show, then I would sometimes feel, you know, there were things that made me wince or made me cringe.
You're better without the swearing all the time because people think it's cute on you. You can get away with it. If I were you, you know what I would do? Not get away with it.
Fuck you, Pete Seeger. Pete Seeger acting motherfucker.
He would literally say the worst possible thing he could say in any given situation. I'm not even going to tell any of those stories because I can't repeat them.
Your daddy gave me anal warts.
Why are you trying to piss off your audience, you know, or why are you kind of being so, like, gruff?
Hey, dude, get off my stage, motherfucker. Hey, sorry, get the fuck off my stage.
He was a beautiful, wonderful, great friend, but he could also be a 200 proof gold-plated little motherfucker too.
Oh God, you know, why did he have to go off on that tirade?
Sometimes it would be somebody in the audience would have the nerve or the stupidity to speak up.
No. I might be a bit grumpy, but I'm not hostile.
Well, I don't know what you call them, kind of mean love songs in a certain way.
Why mean?
Well, because I like them.
There was a show where Vic was so drunk, I think Bob actually finally had to come out there and say, hey man, you know, this isn't working.
Oh, come on. Are you going to play this one? Are you going to do this to us tonight?
He liked to sit up on stage and tell people to bring him drinks. You know, I want a big drink of liquor.
Actually, I'm taking a drink of this.
But I would end up intercepting so many of those and killing them myself just to keep them from ending up inside of him.
It was an out of body experience. I flew around that hospital room once.
You know, you're here to do a job, you know. It's the best job in the world. You really have to show up and be responsible.
Pot is not for everybody. Kids don't smoke pot. It ruins people's lives.
Long-awaited chemical buzz, like a far-off twister.
But I see this fucking pain.
He was very drunk and pretty scary.
When did you first meet Vic?
Probably when he was drunk on the street of Athens somewhere.
I shot up some drugs in my backyard.
Played a very shitty show. Really sucked bad, but I didn't care. I was getting drunk as a coot.
He wasn't one of those consistent kind of always a mean drunk or always a happy drunk. He could go either way. You never really knew.
No, we'll order this one. Just leave.
Of course, when you're trying to describe how charming and lovely somebody is, it's almost put the Is that lovable? What's lovable about that?
I'm talking like Scott. Fuck you. That's a fucking.
He called me early in the morning and he had emptied every little bottle of liquor in the minibar between, saying goodnight and saying good morning.
I finally got stinking drunk on scotch.
Like a flattering sentence whispered in my ear.
After I finish this song, it's when you throw the fatties on stage. After I finish this song, when the fatties start flying.
Most of the songs were written after I'd gone on tour, and so everything was exploding for me as far as my Yeah, I'd gone out of the South.
Michelle loves Willie, our little Sarah, daughters of the American Revolution.
And by West of Rome, to me, it seemed that you were beginning to play around with the phrasing of your words a little more.
Yeah, well, that's, again, this weird things that you should be able to sing anything.
Wall holla pinned to the edge of South Carolina. We interstate travel just to free a man from China.
This album was a lot more produced and thought out than Little, both lyrically and musically.
We talked about Little.
Whereas Little was a record he wasn't even sure was going to be released.
And West of Rome, my first record where I was out in the world.
Because I rode in a cab, and it was fun. I never ride in a cab here in Athens because I'd be idiotic, would it not?
As far as West of Rome, his songs are well polished on that album.
I had seen an ad for West of Rome in Spin or Rolling Stone or something. It called it a folk rock masterpiece, and that sounded like a horrible thing.
It's off of my second record, West of Rome.
Will Grandma be able to repeat?
My favorites were West of Rome and Little.
Right. Well, I was coming into my own as a songwriter.
I think that's probably still my favorite record of his.
And that's arguably Vic's best album.
West of Rome is the record where I had been told by a lot of people that, oh, you're a good songwriter. And so I was very excited about songwriting.
Throwing caution into the fan. Catch as those catchers can.
West of Rome was my first musical experience when I finally got around to getting over what I'd seen and what I heard and actually get to the music itself. That was the record, and then I immediately became a convert and felt like, where have I been?
It was probably a year or two after the record came out that I actually heard it, and just totally blew me away, and I just felt like I was, diving into this amazing world.
One day he started talking about the lyrics on West of Rome, and I realized that his relationship with words was so powerful, but almost like the thing about Vic was he could actually sing almost anything and it would work.
From my apartment near the escarpment, I could see the street market and its adjoining park. People, I've had that a lot in in the press and things, and people say things that other people, singing things that other, nobody's ever had this word in a song before. Well, that's sad. Every word needs to be in a song, every word, because they're all important. Incubation and fruition formation, but the act of creation is fraught with dangerous things. When there's mystery in a song, it opens up so many possibilities that the listener can run with, and it's kind of like this, it's like we collaborate on a song, the listener's imagination plays a very big part in the enjoyment of the song. It takes a little bit of work, perhaps, instead of just talking about, I like big butts and I don't, that doesn't take that much imagination, To be the brave and loyal, suicided soldier. This one, I wanted everything to be about something.
He's staring at the worldly wonders that stretch just as far as he can see, but he will stop staring when he's older.
And I stretch out these syllables for dramatic effect.
Brief as little Miss Muffet.
You know, so I think what Vic was doing was exaggerating this like southern speech pattern.
If you're going to sing a Vic Chesnutt song, better not pat your foot.
And everything that I say.
Cram 25 syllables into one measure.
A 4-syllable word that he would drag one syllable out, and it was just beautiful.
Listen to his ability to twist and turn with words and like you say, fit into the melody.
The way he would stretch out vowels and make words into these whole new, paragraphs.
The phrasing is off the grid. So it doesn't lock into the grid. It has to be, it's kind of floating there. And the way you speak is not on a grid.
Mama ordered us some catalog jeans. She made the cuffs on the sewing machine.
A lot of times when I'm writing songs, it can't be too many words in a specific line, but it strikes me he didn't have these limitations that us mere mortals have.
I can sing anything and I can shove it in anywhere.
Well, for me, having gone on the road with him some, you really just understand very quickly what it's like to travel with somebody in a wheelchair, and it's not easy.
I became really aware of how inaccessible places are, particularly bar bathrooms.
I had never seen anyone tour in a wheelchair.
I am a rough ball of twine.
It's hard enough doing a van tour, able-bodied, young, Scots girl. For Vic to be able to carry it off in the way that he did, I knew he was hardcore.
But almost more, it's like throwing up a little bit of a shield. So, you can't get into, you don't want to deal with people's feeling sorry for you. It's just like after a while, like feeling sorry for what? They didn't do a damn thing.
There was some quote he said himself about bathrooms being inconvenient, but he didn't want some poor bar owner to spend his last $10,000 to build some, bathroom just so that he could get in and out of it.
I think a lot of times, you get that feeling like, oh, special attention, or people like he was so anti-special attention based on his disability, which he didn't even consider, nor did I, because he made cooler songs than people with fully healthy bodies.
Like being in a wheelchair for me makes me different than all musicians in the world.
I've been in the hot seat, sweating it out. Oh, sweating it out.
It's a good gimmick, I think. My wheelchair is often called the hot seat. It used to be, my roommates or my friends would call it the hot seat because if I was driving, I would get out of my wheelchair into the driver's seat to drive, and then if somebody else sat in my seat, it would be the hot seat because my butt had been warm in it.
The wheelchair for me wasn't a component of the whole thing. That was just who he was.
So when I woke up and then I was in a wheelchair, it was like all of a sudden I had my whole image was like this.
When I was in a wheelchair, see what people in wheelchairs go through, there's a lot of people who won't look at you when you're in a wheelchair.
People often ask me, how come you don't write songs about you know, your wheelchair and stuff. And I say, you know, I don't know, I guess I do, you know, in every song I guess is about it. You know, what rounds a wheelchair anyway?
How does your physical experience inform your music?
You know, I mean, in small, funny ways, you know, like I try not to ever sing, I ran to the corner. How do you say that a girl performer, if she has big tits, is that a bonus or not? I mean, a lot of times it's a bonus, but sometimes it's the opposite of a bonus because you don't see anything else, you know?
But that voice went way beyond that wheelchair.
So 1996, the press is calling you a genius.
Yeah, all of
and
that
Bob
is
Dylan.
made up. All of that is fake.
So all the interviews I've done where people call your lyrics brilliant.
No, on a lot. I'm sure you shot it on a lot.
So let's skip this section.
I was having a taste of this weird celebrity.
So for those of you who haven't coughed up the money for Sweet Relief LP, this next song was also written by Vic Chesnutt. This is also a little fantasy for me to get to play this loud. I'm so sorry you had to kick my ass. You said I ruined your life. I didn't mean to do that.
What really kind of thrust you into kind of mainstream or the spotlight, certainly the first time I heard about you, was this Sweet Relief 2.
Sweet Relief is an organization that benefits musicians who don't have health insurance.
They wanted to make another Sweet Relief record, and I suggested Vic.
To benefit medical expenses of musicians, because obviously, you know, being in music and everything, there's no real insurance policy or insurance situation.
And a bunch of really talented and in some cases also really famous people recorded his songs.
Which is pretty amazing when you think about that it was an entire album of your songs done by acts ranging from Madonna.
I mean, Madonna? What?
Oh, Hootie and the Blowfish and Madonna and
Cracker, one of my favorite bands.
Well, R.E.M.
Smashing Pumpkins.
I remember reading about it in all kinds of magazines, and MTV did a special on it.
One big Vic, and you're watching
120 minutes.
on MTV
Network.
I think it was, you know, Vic was a very deep music fan. He wanted to meet musicians that he admired, and he wanted to work with them, and he did it.
And it was freaking me out.
Where would you go? And what would you do? And who would you know? And why would you? Open up your trash. Then go take a bath.
I'm not saying that now I'm happy all the time because Madonna sang one of my songs. I do have an erection all the time now because Madonna sang one of my songs.
So you're a big fan of Vic's then?
Oh yeah, he's a genius.
And when you're writing an article that's supposed to be objective, you don't want to say like, this guy is a genius, you have to listen to him, but you had to say that about Vic.
It was freaking me out. Like, I went from bum to a dude with a fax machine.
I think Sweet Relief elevated him. You know, it brought not only the cause, but Vic to a new audience.
That was an all-night shoot from like sundown to sunup.
1, 2, 3, 4.
You Sling Blade?
Maybe Sling Blade.
I'm not going to stop. Sling Blade. Now you played, you got beat up by Dwight Yoakam.
I did. I got beat up by Dwight Yoakam.
I was making the movie Sling Blade, and there's a part of the movie where I needed a band. So what I wanted to do was have them be bad. Maybe not bad, but just not good. I wanted interesting characters as opposed to just getting like well, you know, normal guys. I wanted characters. Vic was really good on the set of that movie. He was a little bit like a kid.
There's usually someone in the trunk. And I came up with a tune just to hum it.
So you don't want to question his genius.
You gotta play through it. You can well on a gig, you gotta play through it.
At the time, there was this. I felt like it was 1 inch away from this kind of status of rock and roll. You know, where I was going to be going to the Grammys and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So that was within reach. You know, at that time. Major label DB.
When I first raised the notion of bringing Vic there, I mean, there was a lot of kind of raised eyebrows about the idea.
Had you ever been disconcerted with the whole major label idea before you got on one?
Oh, sure. I never thought I'd want to be on a evil major label.
It seemed like, why not? I wasn't expecting that we were going to quintuple his sales or anything.
What kind of difference has this last year made for you in terms of the leap from independent to major label?
I get fancy dinners bought of me sometimes.
You struggle and think you're never going to get anything. And then all of a sudden when you're presented with the possibility of having everything, you know, you fall for the shiny object. You turn into a kid and you're like, oh, it can happen.
I was slap. And now all of a sudden, I'm on a major label, I have a taste of success, and I wanted the Grammy.
You don't think about Grammy, it's not something that even cross your mind, but then when somebody mentions it, all of a sudden you want a Grammy.
He did and he didn't, but I don't think he ever consciously said, I really want to. Well, I don't know.
Working with Capitol Records maybe to Vic represented sort of like a really crazy idea. The idea of the Beatles and the Beach Boys and Frank Sinatra and Vic Chestnutt.
I thought, what the hell?
As the release date started getting closer, I could tell he was getting really nervous.
A tremendous amount being asked of Vic.
And so it was time to promote the record. Vic went on tour. And he kept saying yes, and he kept doing everything he said he would, and then he disappeared.
Riddance.
When I saw Vic driving the van, I was like, where are you going? And he said, I'm just going to wash some clothes. And I thought, okay, you know, and then, you know, he never came back.
The sheer of like terror of like, where is he? How is he? And are we ever going to see him again?
I didn't think about Vic being depressed, and I was just mad.
But it became an extended period of time, and there was no real choice but to cancel the tour.
He called me 4 days later and said he'd been down in Jacksonville with the intent to commit suicide, but decided against it, and he was back in Athens.
I'm still alive. I'm still alive. I win a prize.
Felt like a death blow to the record. I mean, I didn't know how we would resuscitate any enthusiasm internally.
And I think that he had a hard time sort of playing along with what one needs to do to further oneself in the music industry.
And they're gonna hate me, and they're gonna, you know, drop a big load of records on top of my head and squish me to death or something.
It may not be pretty, my life up to here, but something bold
that beautiful card. I ruined my major label chances.
I think he accepted the fact that his music wasn't for everybody, and he wasn't going to compromise.
I think he might have tried if he thought that, because he didn't want to be broke. And he had a lot of things to pay for that the rest of us don't have to pay for. It wasn't like he was trying to buy a nice car.
He was very, very giving in his work. I don't know if he could have given as much as the world needs to have a superstar, because that takes a certain breed.
And you have to want it. To really, really have mainstream success, you've got to be hungry. And I think he was always far too much of an aesthete.
And I was schizophrenic. I didn't know what direction I wanted to go in, you know?
So we'd come all this way and then just open the front door and then it's done.
I am sick of you.
I've got crazy ideas.
I think he became even more prolific after he got dropped by Capitol.
Being dropped by Capitol was in no way the end for Vic.
In theory, I've got crazy theories.
Ever since my day.
I don't know if I should play my new songs from this new record, or new songs I just wrote last week, or if I should play old songs.
He was playing this these songs that I'd never heard and you'd never heard, and we weren't even sure if they were really songs.
I write a lot, yeah, I do write a lot. It's important to me to comment on the world that I see. You know, it's important to me.
I haven't heard all of Vic, so I've probably heard a tenth of Vic.
Debut a new song I just wrote last week.
Vic was really one of the most prolific artists I've ever encountered, and one of the great stories I can tell that illustrate that. I said, how shall we begin this process? And he said, well, I've got about 100 songs right now, and if you don't like any of those, I'll write some more.
I wrote this song in a hotel room in Toronto, in the toilet. Tina was asleep.
I have such a hard time writing a song. And this guy, you know, it's like he wakes up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and by the time he gets to the toilet, he's got 2 new songs. It just is fucking weird.
Okay, if we hurry, we have 3 minutes of tape left. Vic. Okay. Vic, what are you doing? Vic. Vic, close your mouth. Okay, action. Vic, what are you doing?
I'm gonna sing a song.
That's the wrong song.
About my weenie.
Okay.
About my weenie.
Okay, about your weenie.
Someday I'm gonna be rich, and someday I'm gonna be bona fide. Someday I'm gonna be just like Steve Willoughby, but today I'm simply terrified. I'm terrified.
One of the most important things to him was to not take himself too seriously.
I definitely got a lot of inspiration from Vic in the way that, and how seriously he took his job. But he was also able to really, really laugh at the same time.
I've met lots of people who are funny in person, but like that humor completely ended up in the music.
Someday I'm gonna be good. Someday I'm gonna be virtuous. Someday I'll be a paragon like Louis Farrakhan. But today I'm a mess. I'm in a mess.
I have a disease. I have a mental disease that makes me depressed. But I also have a great sense of humor, and I love laughter and humor. Separated at birth, it says. See, we do look just alike. Arnie and me.
You gotta realize how funny he really was. He had great time, Bob Hope kind of timing.
This is the strangest rock club I've ever played in, you know. I was wondering where the graffiti with dicks on the wall was. Well, now I know where they are, because I left a few on the wall in there. So the next band here will feel more at home.
It always caught you off guard, every time.
I love the funny, and I love the heavy. and it's a mashup.
You could be wallowing in the misery with him, and you would be laughing.
You know, people have a lot of conceptions of Vic, but, you know, he was not a long-suffering person. He enjoyed life.
I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille.
I think one of the reasons that everybody likes to talk about how funny Vic was is because it's true, but also because we want people to know that actually being with him or working with him was not a downer.
If it wasn't for the humor, I don't think his songs, they would have been missing something really crucial.
I think if you spend a lot of time sitting down, you better learn how to laugh.
Feel free, ladies and gentlemen. Get it on. You know, my style in song is kind of my style in life, the way I live my life. I'm a kind of somber guy, but I'm also like to have fun, you know. I can sing it like this with pouty lips to you. Like I'm Jewel.
Vic just insisted, I want to do my own stunts, he said. All right. So Dwight ran him into the door, and Vic loved it. He wanted to do it some more, and I said, no, that's good, we got it.
Sometimes when I would pick him up out of the wheelchair, he would like do his arms like this, like a little bird, to try to make us all lighter.
He liked to make people laugh, he liked to make people cry. I think he's really intrigued with that.
At least in my personal interactions with him, like never funnier than when he was just angry and ranting about something.
It's good to be here at Wall Street Rising. I appreciate them asking me to play here. I'm a commie. There's a pubic hair on the piano.
Sometimes we'd do 20 shows in a row, and I'd go out front every night. You'd think, well, how's this going to be funny? I just saw it 15 times, and I would still laugh.
Smell the mighty monkey.
He had this way of connecting with the listener that made it more about your life, too.
One friend who's fighting cancer.
Everything has to be funny. You have to laugh at everything, and Vic would challenge you to do so.
And one friend who's into feet sexually.
It's not just that his songs could be funny, it's that they could be funny and serious at the same time, in the same breath, in the space of 2 words.
Or sometimes he would take the subject to a very dark place, but then the next sentence you would realize that actually this is a setup for a punchline.
They'll laugh the first time you say something, and then when it comes back around, they realize the heartbreak inherent in it, and they can't laugh. In fact, a lot of people start crying.
What I really like is when half the crowd gets annoyed at the people who are laughing, because they're like, you know, it's a great song, quit laughing, you dumbass, you know. And the people who are laughing are like, what are you talking about? That's a funny line. Fuck you, quit being so precious, you know. That is a successful show. When that happens, very successful.
You got one friend who touched you inappropriately. And one friend who I know you are pining to touch.
You know, even like this, you know, most desperate, sad songs almost always had like a little niggle of humor in them.
It's one of these first songs where I was mixing the kind of pathos and comedy.
And I respect a man who goes to where he wants to be. Even if he wants to be dead.
And he said, I remember the quote that when we were talking about that, he said, you know, if I had a noose around my neck, I could find some humor in it.
I wanted to have these kind of deceptively sad sounding songs that had humor in them, that might be sneaky in a way. sneaky humor in my sad songs.
I used to retire from life.
Part of Vic's legacy is his collaborations with so many artists, you know, Lamb Chop and Elf Power, you know, on and on and on, and it's really a beautiful thing.
It's a match made in some kind of heaven.
My friend Kurt Wagner, who's in Lamb Chop, the singer in Lamb Chop, the songwriter, I was inspired by their work.
But he was really into the idea of like, I've got these songs and I'm gonna almost like use this band as an instrument.
And there are times I have these ideas for something but I can't actually achieve it without instrumentation. I also suspect that in recent years, I think that his physical condition was in decline. And I think that it was becoming increasingly more difficult for him to play.
We were to be despised. I must have been the one of history's stupidest men. Everything was perfect in my head.
He's still Vic, no matter who he's playing with. It's not like change of the group, the change of the musicians, change of the sound. It was still Vic.
Everything was perfect in my head until it started hitting me.
Well, I guess he had already played with Widespread Panic on the Brute projects. They made 2 records together.
And I just remember thinking, what an odd kind of sound. Like, I mean, I'd heard Vic and I'd heard Widespread. And I don't know, I mean, it did give him like a little bit more bellow and power.
It rocked. It was turned into a free-for-all jam session. And it's just a pounding song.
My buttocks would come up off my sheet because they just thumped me so hard. So it was like, I knew when we started doing that song that we was gonna do something.
Kitchen light just isn't right. I need full spectrum. Cornfield is post.
And so I started playing with other people, and then I started having fun playing with other people. And it seemed like the more noise we could make, the more, the more addictive it became to play with, with other people. So.
Please welcome Vic Chestnutt.
There was an aspect of collaboration for Vic that was deeply social, and it was something that he really needed in his life, to be in a room with other people and share stories, and to have the kind of camaraderie that musicians often feel with each other.
He was willing to do pretty much anything with anybody, and there were a lot of people that wanted to collaborate with him, for a good reason. And I think it broadened a lot of his work too.
The senior class, with or without question. Yeah, with or without question.
He kind of went into a mode where he started collaborating with local bands for different projects, keep himself busy all the time. And we were probably like the 3rd or 4th band that he had done that with.
He loved that and he needed that, but in a way, I do feel that when he wrote the song, when the bubble formed in his head and it came out in the initial private moment, that was the that was the real thing for him, and the rest of it was kind of icing on the cake.
My hands is old man hands. My fingers, they are crinkly cut. And idle hands are the devil's playthings. But I don't know what he wants me to touch. Oh, the moon is right above us.
I liked all the collaborations. I think it worked best on a whole with the Silver Mountain Zion and in the Gee collaboration. Those songs are powerful songs.
You know, a lot of the same themes that are in the early work run through most of the work, and some of it's pretty dark.
And everything that I see.
And we all worried about Vic. We all, you know, we all cared for him, and we all worried.
The notion of suicide, which I guess is sort of an important topic, and you know, when you're talking about Vic.
I knew that for years he thought about suicide.
The elements are all there.
That's it. You know, I think there's no kind of after. I don't know whether to laugh or cry at life itself and my life too.
I'd like to go to Africa and be eaten by a lion.
I'm not, you know, to live now and find my salvation now.
Or maybe just have my bones crunched by hyenas would be nice.
Let me play another song from At the Cut, and this is called Flirted With You All My Life.
I am a man. I am self-aware.
You know, I've attempted suicide 3 or 4 times. It didn't take. And this is really a breakup song with death.
Even kissed you once or twice.
Did you try to kill yourself even before the accident?
I did, yeah.
And after the accident?
I did, yeah.
Well, he definitely had really thought it over for a long time.
Sort of a chronic thing for him to had the relationship he had with suicide, you know. It was sort of a constant companion with him.
To be a great provocateur and an agitator, you have to like discomfort, or at least feel comfortable in it.
Some of the most beautiful things in the world come out of pain, you know. I guess Vic probably tapped into that.
And all of us that knew him were, you know, lived in fear of getting the phone call.
So excited about that tour and how great it was, how much he loved those guys.
It was very one of the best shows I'd seen him do in years.
Yeah, I was just blown away by his band. It just felt like we're here to show people how Vic's music's supposed to be heard.
Since I saw it last. It's rubble now.
Traveling is, I don't know, it's like a drug, you know. You start doing it, and then it's really intoxicating, and then I go through withdrawal every time I come off the road.
I mean, it's a hard life anyway. People hear that and don't believe it.
He called me as soon as he got back to Athens, and I knew he wasn't doing very well, but he told me he wanted to get help.
When I last spoke to him, he was pretty clear that It was dark.
I was surprised he was asking for help.
I was happy. I was happy that he was going to get help.
I'd offered to fly down there, but he told me to wait until he found a place.
The problem in talking about Vic and the issue of healthcare is that Vic did not want to be a poster boy for anything.
You know, he was paralyzed from the waist down. It was very hard for him to get health insurance. The health insurance he did have was very limited.
It was very minimal care.
It didn't cover his medication. It didn't cover doctor's visits.
I don't know that you can pin down any one cause. Like, I think the failed healthcare system is part of the equation, certainly.
It would also be a grave oversimplification to pretend that healthcare did not weigh very heavily on Vic.
And he needed more surgery, but he already had these huge bills hanging over his head.
I mean, I could actually lose a kidney only because I cannot afford to go in there again. I don't want to die, especially just because of I don't have enough money to go in the hospital. It's just ridiculously expensive that they can take my house away for a kidney stone operation that's absurd.
It shocks me and it maddens me, the healthcare in America, and it's sad.
If I were to try to put myself in his position, I have no idea how I would handle things.
That's the tricky part of this, that kind of depression, that you go into a place so dark that it's unimaginable that there'll ever be light again. But of course there'll be light again.
And we had talked that morning, things are bad, but a few hours later I get a message that at the time was very reassuring.
I just wanted to tell you that my psychiatrist doubled my dose of Abilify, and now I'm happy. It's so great. If I had a shotgun in my mouth, I'd probably try to fuck it. Just an hour ago, I was depressed and sobbing, and now I'm happy as hell, and woo-hoo. All right, bye. Thanks, love ya, bye.
Looking back, I think he was telling me what I wanted to hear, but at the time, I really believed he'd overcome his demons and was ready to beat this.
Some call her a thief. Yeah, and some people.
A day before Christmas, that he's in the hospital.
Even when I get to the hospital and I'm at his bedside, I still expected him to pull through. I'd seen him do it before.
Waiting to hear whether either he came out of it or managed to cross on through this time.
And each time when you came through, when, as you put it, death didn't take, were you relieved or sorry?
It's more complex. I couldn't say either. Sometimes I'd be angry.
Angry that
angry that they revived me. How dare you people interfere in my life, my wish. But, when the days would wear on, I would start to see some joy again in the world and be like, whew, I squeaked that one out.
Nothing new was all she could muster. Everything I you touch me, listen. Every day, every little thing I say.
Whew, you can clap now.